Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second edition of First Impressions Gathering Storm Edition. This is going to be a series that leads up to the release of Gathering Storm on February 14th. I'm very excited about the release and the expansion. There's going to be a lot of really cool things that are coming our way. And this is going to be my thoughts on the Maori and all of the different civs as we go through the series. The reason why I decided to put this series together is I think it's a great opportunity content-wise for the channel as I try to grow my channel here on YouTube, specifically around Civilization 6 content. And I also get a lot of people. I stream every day on Twitch, and I get a lot of people coming in and it's saying, "Hey, what do you think of this civ? What do you think of that civ?" And civilizations come up in conversation, and people ask what I think of them. And I thought, what would be a good idea? Let's go ahead and make these videos, and then people can jump on over to YouTube and check out the video and get a full in-depth analysis of my thoughts on these civs. So away we go. Kupe of the Maori. They are quite the civilization. You want to talk about an interesting start, a bold move, starting them in the water. I think it's really cool. It's going to be a lot of fun to play with. For the casual player of this game especially, I think these guys are going to be a lot of fun. As you guys know, I play the game at a Deity level when I'm doing my games of the week and playing in general. I want to make it clear that while my evaluations are based, generally speaking, on how they will play when playing on Deity, I'm going to try to give an overall evaluation of them as well, so that people understand what the civilization's about, not just when they're playing at a hardcore Deity level. So let's run it through. Kupe's Voyage. Begin the game in the ocean tile. Fantastic. Gain a free builder and +1 population when settling your first city. This is essentially a must. When you're going to be looking at maybe a turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, 8, 10, whatever, settle, you're gonna have to get some catch up, right? So really this ability is about, you're starting in the ocean, here's all the things we're going to give you to make up for the fact you're starting in the ocean. All right. So you've got a free builder and 1 population so that you can get started on getting your city going right out of the gate. And then also, having some population so you're not starting from 1, because by the time you get settled, the other civilizations are all going to be, especially on Deity, they're going to have their second city or even their third city potentially down. So that's an important distinction to make. The extra housing just allows you to grow nice and tall, which is good. In some cases, they shouldn't have to struggle. It's particularly strong because there's a good chance you'll be settling there's a good chance you'll settle not on fresh water, because you'll just settle on the coast. You might find a river or something like that you'll be able to settle on, but there's opportunities, much like Australia, where you can settle on the coast and they give you a bonus housing. This, I think, part of the reason why they're giving you this here. And the amenity, which is also nice. And then the science and culture before you settle your city, just so that you're not falling way behind in the science and culture tree because you don't have a city. That's really, there's no foundation for that other than they have to do it, right? So very interesting. Nothing particularly strong about it. It's just the uniqueness of them. But there's nothing particularly strong about the ability, just the fact that they start in the ocean. It's interesting. Mana. Begin the game with the sailing and shipbuilding technologies unlocked. This is really very interesting ability, because it allows you to go out and explore the world a lot sooner than others. It allows you to meet people faster, it potentially allows you to go and meet some city-states faster, which is a nice bonus. It allows you to go and find goodie huts and stuff like that might be on islands off to the out in the middle of the land that nobody's gotten to yet, so it can be a nice bonus that way as well. So that's very cool. And also the embarked units gaining strength and movement. This allows you to move around much faster, which is, again, just a compounding factor on that. Now, unimproved woods and rainforests gain 1 production, and becoming +2 once the conservation civic is unlocked. A big part of the reason why they've done this is that later on, you're going to find out that they're actually going to want to keep those passable features in the game in order to help them. So they're trying to give you some production so they don't get too production starved. Because as you will learn, they are going to be quite production starved in general in this game. So they're just trying to find ways to interject a little bit of love there. The fishing boat's extra food and culture bomb, which is nice. Nothing great, but it's something, right? And then resources cannot be harvested, and great writers cannot be earned. So resources cannot be harvested. This is bonus resources. This is a major drawback and a big part of the production starvation that I referred to. And then the great writers cannot be earned is a pretty big drawback. They do have a special building that helps them in other ways, but not being able to earn great writers is a pretty big drawback to their culture game that I think people need to make sure, especially on a deity level, that's a pretty big drawback to trying to get that victory. The unique improvement, the paw, which coincides directly with the Toa, their unique military unit. Very interesting. For an early era military unit, they're pretty strong. That -5 combat strength really works well, similar to the Veru unit for the Indian civilizations. Could be very beneficial, even if you have them sticking around later in outer eras, just to have them adjacent, so that that your enemies take a penalty when you have other units hitting them. So they could have some usefulness later in the game, but generally speaking, very good defensively, which you're going to need because you're going to be encroaching on other people's land. So you're going to want to have some defense. And also, they'll be able to be good enough early on to get some early military, which you're probably going to want to have in order to make room for yourself. So a solid early military unit to help you out a little bit, but probably not something that's going to be particularly strong on an overall domination game. And finally, the Maori, a building unique to the Maori. It gives you +2 culture and +2 faith to all the city's tiles with a passable feature. This goes back to that plus production that they gave to woods and rainforests, because people, if you're going to try and take advantage of this Maori or however you say it, I apologize, you're going to want to keep your woods and your rainforests around and not get rid of them, because those are considered a passable feature, just like marsh and other things that are features on the map that you can pass through, as the name implies. So if you get rid of all your woods and rainforests, then you'd and then, like, for instance, put mines on them if you got hills and stuff like that, you don't get the advantage of this culture and faith, which is really important for both a culture game or a religious game. So just trying to keep you from being too production starved, they've given you a bonus production to the rainforests and the woods, which is solid early on, but late game it starts to be a big hindrance on your production. It's a big drawback, so you got to be careful there. And then, of course, like I said, is after flight is researched, you receive tourism on these tiles as well. Not a lot of tourism. It's not going to make these tiles particularly tourist driven. They're not going to get you a whole bunch of actual tourists coming to each individual tile on your land in order to help you towards a tourism game. But they will give you a tourism strength overall. So that's interesting. No maintenance is all right. It'll save you a little gold. But no great work slots, because you cannot earn those great riders, as we said before, as it replaces the amphitheater. That is not great at all. That's pretty rough. One thing that I think is important, before we break these guys down by the numbers, one thing I think that's important to understand about these guys is that you will not have land in the map designated for you. If you're playing on a standard size map with 8 civilizations, then the land on the map is going to be divvied up amongst all the other 7 civilizations, and you have nothing. You're in the ocean, and you have to go find land and squeeze your way in and find a place to live. Put down your cities and squeeze in. And on Deity in particular, this is going to be extremely difficult, because by the time you get to the land and found your city, there's a good chance that your opponents have already founded 2 cities and they're on their way to found their 3rd. And so there's already a whole bunch of land that's already being taken up, and you've been forward settled before you even settle for the first time. Almost guaranteed. So it's going to be very difficult to find land. You're going to probably have to have some early military in order to make some room for yourself. And for those of you who are not a big fan of the loyalty system and not being able to put cities in certain spots because the loyalty system is going to have you lose your city, it's going to be particularly frustrating with these guys. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So on a deity level, especially because you're playing against such high level difficulty, and the opponents are going to be having more cities so early and quickly, you're going to run out of room in a hurry, and that's a big part of what factors in to my evaluation here. So in a word, they are very interesting. I think for a casual player on lower difficulties, they're going to be a blast to play with. I think the harder the difficulty you get with, the more difficult it'll be. But overall, there's a lot of really cool, interesting things starting in the water. Really neat, unique kind of abilities. Very interesting. In a number, I give them a 6. Just maybe a little bit higher if you're playing on lower difficulties, but at deity level, there's just too many drawbacks. Scientifically, I give them a 1 out of 5. In a science game, you need cities. 8's the minimum. 12 is much more preferable. So you're going to have to go out and make space for yourself militarily in order to get that many cities down. But yeah, they don't have any raw science that they're giving you. There is some culture that can help you in a science game raw wise, but the biggest thing that for science is production, and you are production starved as these guys. Not being able to remove bonus resources, that means you can't take out deer and you can't take out stone to help you build wonders and districts. So that means that you're not getting those big chunks of production to help push you forward and catch up with the harder AI levels. That's a big deal. Culturally, I gave him a 2 out of 5. I was tempted to give him a 3, but again, you need land and production as well for a culture game. The drawback of not getting great writers is a big deal. And I don't, personally, the Maori, the tourism on the tiles, I don't think is going to be that big of a feature to help actually get tourists. I think culturally they're going to be better than they are touristy. There's just too many drawbacks to the tourism and the lack of land and the lack of great writers. I'm giving them a 2 out of 5. Maybe they're a 3 out of 5, but I'll reserve judgment on that. For now, this 2. Militarily, I'm also giving them a 2. If you're going for a domination victory, you're going to get a little bit of help from the Toa at the very beginning. Maybe they can help you with some adjacency debuffs for your opponents, but generally speaking, they don't have any actual military strength other than this individual unit, and it's not going to be a big deal towards helping you get a domination victory, so a 2 is the best I can do there. And finally, their religion game is definitely their best game. It's getting the religion is going to be a little bit tough. You're going to have to make sure you find land as quickly as you can and get that holy site down. But it is important to point out that you're going to be able to do the research while you're in the water towards the ability to build your holy sites. And then in addition to that, you're going to get some bonuses early on, like the builder and the bonuses towards production from your forests and your rainforests. And so that will help you get it going a little bit. But as long as you get the religion, you're fine. And the Maori is actually going to help you a lot more in a faith game than a culture game, because if you keep all your passable tiles, get these things built in a number of cities, you're going to be able to accumulate a ton of faith. Plus 2 faith and all your passable features. This could be 10, 12, 14 or more faith in every city for free every turn once you get that built. And so I think they're going to accumulate faith really quickly early on and allow you to get to a quick religion victory if that's what you're going for. That's it. Maybe a little controversial. A lot of people think these guys are super powerful. On lower difficulty levels, playing it casually, these numbers would probably be higher and they'd be a little bit easier to play with because you wouldn't have to worry so much about land. But I think people are going to be driven nuts by the lack of land, and I think it's going to drive them crazy dealing with the loyalty problems when they're playing on Deity. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Tell me I'm wrong if you think I'm wrong. Who knows? This is my first impression of them. Coming from a Deity perspective, at least. I hope you enjoyed. Like the video if you did. It helps out a lot to make sure that YouTube can suggest this content to other people. Subscribe. Check out the Game of the Week, which we put out on a weekly basis. And until next time, bye-bye.